how are we doing? Hope that we're all well. It's me, Ryan Hartley, here for episode 52 of the Always Better Than Yesterday interview session. So good to have you with us. Really grateful for you showing up, and hopefully it'll be time well spent in our company. So as I say, it's me, Ryan Hartley, Always Better Than Yesterday, and here we are with episode 52. And if this is the first time you are joining an Always Better Than Yesterday interview session, let me just say thank you for taking the time out and spending it with us. And secondly, the reason I'm doing this is to help you learn the habits and mindset behind successful and inspiring people. So hopefully this will be time well spent for you to hear, learn and understand what works for my guest, so that actually you might go out and be able to use some of that in your own life to really help you be always better than yesterday. Because I genuinely believe that I think the way we think informs the way that we act, and the way that we act will inform the results that we get. So if I can help you this evening by shaping, just changing the way that you think, so that you go and get better results at the end of it, then that's what I'm here to do. Good to see you go. Loads of people on at the moment. So good to see Nathan, Dave, Gabrielle, Jess, Bill, Adam, hello Andrew, mate. Hello, good to see you. Jem, Bill, loads of friendly faces. Kat, nice to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining. At any point, if you feel like that you need to share what's being said with that one special person in your network, then please do that. And also ask my guest all of your curious questions. So I'm about to bring episode 52. Really looking forward to this one. Here we go. Hello, my friend.
Hey, man. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. So drop loads
All
of love
right.
heart emojis for my guest, Nathan Todd. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in the state of South Carolina. It is hot as all get out, but it's a beautiful day to be alive, my friend.
Happy days. We do with the honour and the privilege of introducing your good self to the watchers and the listeners.
Yeah, man. So I was thinking about this when we talked yesterday, and here's what I really think is important to kind of get people started and introduced to me. So let's get all the normal stuff out of the way. I'm the founder and creator of nolabeldefinesme coaching, but here's the important stuff. When I was born 2 months premature, right? And that led to me having a disability called cerebral palsy, which for people who don't understand and don't know what that is, really breaking it down really, really simply, it's a brain injury that happens at or around birth. And so that has impacted my life greatly in every aspect of my belief system, what I go out and I create in the world, because from day one, without even like knowing it, I learned to be a fighter. I learned to fight, to have the will to live. And even though I don't remember that, I completely believe that shaped part of who I am today.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, my friend. And take us a little bit more on your journey. Take us a little bit around your story between that kind of that birth and just who you've become in that process to who you are today.
Yeah. So I'm 33 years old. And so it's been an amazing 33-year ride here. Another story that I was thinking about, it actually happened when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And since we're all about mindset, this is that's what I'm going to try and share. Stories of my life that have shaped that for me. So I was playing t-ball, and so that, for those if you don't know, t-ball is the the baseball you play as a little kid and you hit the ball off the tee. And I remember one game very specifically. You know, when you're a little kid, you're out there, you're playing in the dirt. You don't really care about the rules. You're just outside and you're like releasing energy. But see, I'm the son of a football coach. So I've been around my whole life. I'd been around sports and I'd seen like structured sports. And I'm like, well, that's not how you're supposed to play. And I would take it very seriously. I just remember one game we got destroyed. We absolutely got killed. And the coach at the end sat us all down in the dugout and he called me out. He said, I want to talk about Nathan. And here's where my mind went. My mind went, oh man, I'm the reason we lost.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I'm the worst player out here, but I was doing my best. Like, I froze and I started crying. And, you know, the thing he said was, if you guys played half the way that this kid plays, we would have done a whole lot better.
Wow.
And I share that story because look at where my mind went. And that was all based on like the influences and the information I had taken in as a kid from the outside world, saying that you have a disability, you're not supposed to be able to do these things.
Yeah.
So I'm already predisposed to be thinking in a frame of mind of I'm different, I'm less than.
So how did that moment take you down a different path?
I think that moment just gave me the understanding that I was doing something where people were paying attention, and it wasn't seen as a negative. It was seen as I was doing the best I could, and I was giving my all, and like the why not me type of mentality.
Yeah.
So that happened. Then let's just fast forward all the way to I graduate high school, and then I go to college. I remember thinking in college, like, let me try and figure out how to get out of here in 4 years. And man, after I graduated, that was like one of those life lessons that just kind of like slaps you around and tells you, you think life's one way, but here's what reality is. Because I graduated in 2008, and here, not only was that not the best time to graduate college, but I could walk into interviews and automatically feel the energy in the room of, well, this is a waste of our time. We don't know what to do with someone who's got a disability. Is it going to cost us more money? Is it a liability? And I mean, that happens every single day for people with disabilities, where you just walk in, you do great on phone interviews, it's all good. You walk in, and that stark difference between you and the person sitting across from you just kind of creates a clash that we haven't really figured out how to navigate as a society to this point.
What would you do if you had the fix and the solution? What would you do?
Yeah, I was just talking about this a little bit yesterday too, and I think ultimately from both sides, from able-bodied people to people who have disabilities, I ultimately think it comes down to being able to communicate with each other. Being able to sit down and have conversations like this one where you just get to see each other as human beings. Like, that's what I would want to take away. I would want to take away any kind of label that says, oh, you have this, so you're supposed to be this way. And we just show up and we say, hey, you're Ryan and I'm Nathan. Nice to meet you. Here's who I am as a human being.
Absolutely.
I think
So, it's really powerful, man. And obviously that then touches hugely onto, you know, what you've just said in your introduction on no label. How did you create that? Where did that come from?
who knows, man? Honestly, it came from me doing my work, and it kind of ties back into the story. So I graduate, a whole year goes by, I don't get any job offers, anything. I spend all this time interviewing. My uncle, who lives in Nebraska, knew of a Center for Independent Living. That's a organization that's a nationwide thing here in the United States, and there are places around the world as well. But he just happened to know that they existed. He called the one that was here. I went in just to see about services, had an interview, and I was brought on as an intern. But I mean, that's just how life works out sometimes. Just crazy coincidences happen, crazy connections happen, and you just got to roll with it. And when they happen, you've got to step into that and say, okay, now's my shot. So I've got to take it for what it's worth. And every day for 9 years, I would hear people come in and have the story of what they can't do. That's how all the stories would start. And I remember one story really vividly of a young kid who's a couple years younger than me, talking about how he wanted to go to California or wanted to go on a trip, but there was no way he could get on an airplane. And I'm like, well, let me tell you that you may use a wheelchair, but I know someone who has less mobility than you and uses a wheelchair and can barely move any part of his body that I was on a plane with, right? I was on a trip with him, and it's like no labels is about creating possibility, and a lot of times if you don't have any frame of reference, you're not going to be able to even think of that being a real thing. So I mean, that's ultimately what it is about for me. It's not about that no label is ever going to define us, because labels define every part of who we identify ourselves to be. It's about realizing that you can peel off one. If it's no longer serving you, just rip it off, get out a Sharpie, and rewrite what you want it to be, and then slap that on.
You talked about having this will and determination and being a warrior. What does that really mean in terms of your mindset? You know, what you're a powerful human being, you're a powerful creator, and that didn't just happen. Like, what sort of mindset things have you built over the years that have really helped you and keep you showing up?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to my parents, honestly, and the idea that they said, life is going to be this way. It's not changing. That doesn't make you any less. That just means that we get to adapt around the circumstances that are here and now to figure out how to make them work. And I think here is another example. There is one time we were going camping, and we were out at the campground, and I was with a couple of my friends, and I didn't learn to walk until I was about 4 years old. And I remember my mom tells a story about my friend tripped and fell. And here was my response. I was like, oh, it's okay. They just haven't learned to fall yet. Because let me tell you, I spent a lot of time on the ground, just tripping and falling, scraping knees, getting bloody. Yeah. And I think that's so powerful, just in the fact that, look, that's going to happen for each and every one of us. It might not be an actual fall down and hit the ground for you. It might be a metaphorical one, but those are the times. Every time I would fall down when I was little, I would say crash and burn, right? And so in life, you're going to crash and you're going to burn, but it's in that moment when you're sitting there in the fire trying to figure out what in the heck is going on that's going to forge who you become when you get out of that.
Yeah, that's powerful. My friend Hannah says that she lets good labels dwell in her heart. A true good identity is crucial to our present and future. I'm just curious to know what positive label, what positive identity do you have?
Yeah. So I am a powerful, authentic, loving man. There's one of my positive labels. And I also identify with the word disability being a positive label.
Sure.
Because if I didn't have this disability, I wouldn't probably be on this show. I wouldn't have created a platform around No Label Defines Me. I wouldn't be speaking in front of audiences, and I wouldn't have written a book. To me, disability represents strength. It represents knowing that every day of your life, you're going to have to adapt. It doesn't matter who you are, because in a flash of a moment, in a snap of a finger, circumstances can show up in your life, and guess what? They don't just go away. You have to figure out what it means for you and how you're going to navigate your way through it.
Yeah. It's powerful, man. So at what point did you get in your own journey that you thought about helping others?
I think that was all through life, man. And I think that goes back to my mom. So when I was a little kid, I was actually an ambassador for the March of Dimes. So my mom would write these speeches. She would actually say she would give the speech, but I would be up there and I'd be smiling and tell jokes and flirt with all the ladies and all that stuff. But I think that helped me see the power of what's possible with what I've been given in my life. So I think it started there. And then working at the organization Accessibility, I always felt called to show up and be an example for each and every one of those individuals who walked in the door, who have a negative story about what's happening. So trying to figure out how to reframe that. And I actually want to say this too. There's not anything wrong about acknowledging that something is negative and that
Sure.
something is that you don't like the way that something is. The thing is, okay, it is this way, so how do we, again, adapt and change it to what we want it to be?
Yeah.
But to get to where I am today, here's what happened, and it was a interesting switch for me. So 2 years ago, or something like that, I think it was 2 years ago, I was doing a program. I was helping my buddy put a program together for the organization, and as part of payment for supporting him in doing that, he purchased a ticket for me to go to the Summit of Greatness. Right? And I was like, oh, cool, man. This is going to be like the first big conference that I ever go to. And so I go, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot of people here. And I made one declaration during that first time there. And that was that at the end of every day, I would get on in the community and I would do a live about my reflections upon the day. And so when I did that, the next day, I would be in line. I would be waiting for something that was going on, and people would be like, "Hey, don't I know you? I'm pretty sure I know you." And it was just from going on and having the courage to do that thing that was kind of a little bit uncomfortable, and putting myself out there. But I walked away from that, and my buddy asked me, so how was that experience for you? And I said, this whole thing, I've been outside of my comfort zone. I've been the most uncomfortable that I've been in a long time, because my story was, who am I to be here? All these people are entrepreneurs. All these people are making tons of money. And I'm just this guy that works at a nonprofit in Charleston, South Carolina. And
So how did that event transform the way you saw yourself then, mate?
Oh man, yeah, I was just about to get into. I met one of our mutual friends that I didn't know from anything. It was talking to people on Instagram, and old Heather Parody pops in, and she's like, "Hey, we've got to meet each other." Yeah, yeah, the one and only. She popped in. She's like, "Hey, we got to meet each other," and so she just randomly found me as I was sitting eating some dinner during one of the dinner breaks, and we just sat on a hill and we talked, and it kind of transformed, like, just seeing the value that my story was creating in that conversation, right? So she was a big support in shifting that conversation for me. We had the conversation. I went and found my buddy, and then she comes running up to me, and she just got Brian, her husband, on on FaceTime, because she's like, "You guys have to meet each other." I'll never forget that, probably until the day I leave this earth. It was so funny, and we've formed a bond just from that one moment. And so I went back this last conference, and I was a completely different person. I showed up with the intention of, if I'm going to make the most out of this movement, I believe that I'm called to show other people with disabilities that you can meet people that you think are famous, that are influencers, and you can bring just as much value to the world
Yeah.
that they are bringing. So
Yeah.
I made it my goal to talk to as many of the speakers as possible and to get their definition of no label defines me.
That's so cool, man. I saw your video of Lewis Howes giving his response to you.
Oh man, if somebody has the when everybody in the row got up and pointed at me and said Nathan has a question, like before that video, here's what he said. He said, well, I guess this guy's going to ask the question, and this is going to be the last one, so it better be good. And I was like, oh, no pressure.
Wow.
No pressure.
That's the power of having people in your corner and calling you to do more than what you probably would have done yourself. I think that's the power of a real community that's going to just bring you into the person that you can be. That's an amazing story, man. And you're right, Heather was very, very complimentary of you when I interviewed her a few weeks back. Speaks very highly of you, and yeah, it's been a great connection to form. And so, where are you now? How are you helping people now with your work?
So I'm supporting people through my one-on-one coaching. I also have group programs. What my goal is to get more opportunities to speak and to tell my message in that way, because I do believe that speaking is something that I've been called to do from the very earliest of days, and I just think that's where my head is at right now, is how do I become one of those individuals who's up there on those stages that can share a story in a way that people are moved and that people relate to it, even though they don't have the same story as me. There are key things that are the same for all of us. So it's about relating back to you, whoever you are that's watching, and knowing that your circumstances don't define you. Really, it comes down to the actions that you take that define you, I believe. That's...
So we've got a comment from Jay. Says, love Nathan and the incredible potential of the no label movement. Where's the no label movement going, mate? Where's it going, and how can we help get involved and push that forward?
I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. I really do. Like, another thing I want it to turn into is I want it to turn into events. I want it to continue to grow into a community. The interesting thing is I've got a buddy, Matt, who's been supporting for a long time, and he'll be rocking the merchandise. And he said one time he went on a trip in the airport, and the guy said, "Don't you realize how ironic that shirt is? Because it's the No Label Defines Me logo." And he said, "Aren't you labeling yourself right there?" And it's like, yeah, absolutely. But did not start a conversation,
100%.
right? And so when I see it, I see No Label Defines Me as becoming a movement that is a community where people feel safe to be themselves, and they feel safe. I really want people with disabilities to understand that no matter what their disability is, they bring value to the world. And this has shown up multiple days this week. So if you're in this group and you don't currently follow me, go check out my Instagram or Facebook. And I tell Brendan Farbstein, who, if you don't know, he's a super powerful little person who's a motivational speaker. I think he's only 19. And he posted about a comedian who said that dwarves are abortions that made it. Right? And I don't tend to get into all that stuff because I'm like, that's just somebody being ignorant and stupid. But I felt called to actually share my story around that because he may have been talking about little people during that joke, but that that applies to me, and that applies to many people who may see this, where I have people that if I'm with a group of people, they'll assume that I can't speak for myself. They'll assume that somebody else is going to make decisions for me. And even if I'm out with my family and my mom happens to be with me, we went somewhere and I was buying a bed, and my mom kept telling the lady, "He's buying a bed, quit talking to me." And the lady just didn't get it. And she talked to my mom the whole time. And I swiped my credit card, and I'm like, "Well, I hope you enjoy my money. It's my money. It's not my mom's money. I hope you enjoy that." But no one should ever feel like they're devalued, man. And it happens all the time. I've been called you people, and I've had situations where we were hanging with friends, and they're like, "Why are you hanging out with those people?" Because they're pretty cool people. They're funny people.
So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? How do you build the mindset? That's tough world.
Yeah. So just sitting here right now, when you said that, here's what I think. I think two things. I think that at some level, you get so used to it that it kind of becomes second nature to push things down and actually bury them, in all honesty, and yeah, that is what it is type deal. But I also want to say that I think it's important that people realize that it's okay if you're sitting there and people are saying things like that to you, that it's okay to actually cry and have actual emotions around that, be angry, not understand why people are this way, because I don't think we'll ever really figure out exactly why people do the things that they do. I feel like one of the best ways to navigate that, though, is to show up and figure out how to have conversations. Again, I really do think that it ultimately comes down to having the courage to put yourself out there and to be rejected, because trust me, if you go try and talk to some strangers and you've got a visible difference, it's not going to be, oh yeah, let me talk to you because you came up and talked to me. But that's really how I believe that things are going to change. But as the person with the disability, here's the challenge that I've seen and that I will keep going back to, is because of all this and because of the societal perception of disability currently in the world, there's a lot of angry people. And they haven't learned to deal with those emotions in a constructive, positive way. So we can get labeled as the angry disabled person. I mean, I've lashed out at people before because you reach a point where you're like, I'm tired of dealing with this. I'm tired of trying to make you understand. And I think
I think
that
there's, I,
yeah, I just think that I don't know the answer. I don't know if I'll ever find the answer, but that's going back to the movement. Those are the types of things that I want it to create. I want it to create conversation. I want it to create possibility, and I want people. I don't just work with people with disabilities, but it's something I'm called to do just because that's a major part of my story. Because this stuff can apply to you if you don't have a disability at all. And I want people to feel seen. I want people to feel heard, and I want people to understand that they matter.
I love that. I love that. What does it mean to you to be always better than yesterday, my friend?
It means that you move 1% closer to the goal that you have set in front of you. It means that if you're sitting there in frustration today, you move 1% away from that by finding the good in any situation. Let me let me tell you a quick story about this time I was in 7th or 8th grade. I really don't remember what grade this lady taught, but I can remember this, no doubt. So, you know, you're always like, you have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. I'm like, man, I got to go to the bathroom. So I raise my hand. I got my hall pass. I'm ready to go. I'm going to the bathroom. I take care of business. I go flush the urinal. Nothing happens. I'm like, that's weird. So I look around. I'm like, okay, I got to get back to class. I flush it again. And man, let me tell you, I just hear this rumbling. And then, boom, the urinal exploded. The urinal exploded. And I just have water raining down on me. And I'm standing there like, what in the world just happened? What just happened? And in that moment, I'm like grabbing all of the like cheap paper towels they have to pay for. And I'm like trying to pad off. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. There's not enough paper towels in here to fix this problem. And I stood there and I'm like, what do I even do? I had two choices. I'm like, I have to go back to class or I'm just going to be in the bathroom all day. And I tell the story because that's the way life is. Life is going to show up and the toilet's going to explode on you. And you're going to have to figure out what the next step is. It might not be pretty, but you have no other choice. You just got to make the best decision you can and move forward. I went back to class and I'm like, you guys won't believe this. They're like, why are you dripping wet? I was like, yeah, I just decided to take a bath. That's amazing. I know it's the middle of the school day, but
that's amazing.
So absolutely. I think always better than yesterday is about knowing that life's going to show up and it's going to have circumstances that happen like that, and you've got to be able to laugh at it, and you've got to figure out, okay, how do I want to move forward?
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. I just want to take the time to say, hey, thank you for taking the time to join the podcast or YouTube, or even with us Facebook Live right now, thank you for taking the time to spend it with us. I'm sure that what Nathan has been sharing this evening will be of value to you, or at least someone in your network. So please have a little think about who that one person is right now, and just share it with either them on your timeline or in their inbox, because sometimes a little helping hand from a friend is all we need. And I just want to say thank you to you, Nathan. Such an inspiration. Always love hearing the content that you're putting out. I know we've been recently connected, but this is, it's been a great conversation. I've really, really enjoyed the insight that you bring. And I'd just like to leave you with first of all, how can people connect with you? How can they find more of your content and the like?
Yeah, so you can go to themusclemotivator.com. That's the website, or you can follow me on social media. So my main two platforms are Facebook and Instagram. And on Instagram, it's _Nathan_Todd. I also, because of the podcast, I recently created a new channel there. So it's No Label Live Show if you want just the podcast stuff. And man, I just thanks for having me on. It's been fun telling stories, and not a lot of people know that story I just shared. But I know if any of my friends watch it, it's one of my buddy's favorite stories because he was there. He remembers seeing me walk through the door, and I just want to leave people with this. And that's like, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, no matter how you find this, you're up to big things, even if you don't feel like it at the moment. Every day you're up to big things, and you're impacting the world. Maybe you need to stop looking at the world as this big blue marble in the sky and start looking at it as the 360 degrees around you and say, that's my world. How can I impact the 360 degrees around you? Because, look, you have to be patient. Things are going to take time when you're changing the world. It takes time. You have to be diligent. You have to know that whatever you're doing was given to you to show it care and to give it the nurturing that it needs, but it was only given to you, and only you can bring it to the world. And then you must never quit on that. Never quit on something you feel called to do. It's not going to be an easy road, but I don't feel like you should ever quit when you feel called to do something.
Yeah, such a great final thought, my friend. Thank you, everyone that's taken the time out to watch and listen. And Nathan, thank you, my friend. We will talk again very soon. I'd just like to say, I hope everybody has a great week. Love you all. Much love. Cheers, brother.
All right, man.